All right, let's get right into it. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking one of the most fascinating ancient frameworks of human destiny ever recorded. If you've ever looked at a circular or square astrological chart and just felt completely overwhelmed by the grid of lines and numbers, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're totally demystifying the 12 houses of Vedic astrology. So you gotta wonder, how exactly did the ancient sages map out the absolute entirety of human destiny? Well, they did it through precise mathematical and astronomical calculations. Picture a diagram. The exact eastern horizon at the exact moment you were born. That acts as the starting point, mathematically calculated as your first house, or ascendant. From there, the sky's 360-degree ecliptic path is divided into 12 equal 30-degree segments. Each segment represents a house of your life. Honestly, once you see the hidden astronomical architecture behind it, it's structurally brilliant and, surprisingly, highly logical.
And look, we're not just pulling these concepts out of thin air. We're going straight to the ultimate source, the Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra. Authored by the great sage Maharishi Parashara, this monumental Sanskrit text is literally the foundational pillar of Hindu astrology. Throughout this explainer, we'll be translating and extracting the pure, unfiltered wisdom directly from its verses.
Here's our roadmap for today. We're going over naming the 12 bhavas, grouping the astrological houses, the houses of self and family, intellect, obstacles and partnerships, fortune, honor and endings, and lastly, some advanced chart reading rules.
Let's start with naming the 12 bhavas and translating this ancient wisdom.
Our journey begins with the names themselves. In Sanskrit, an astrological house is called a bhava. The scripture dictates, Danu, Dane, Sahaja, Bandhu, Putra, Ari, Yuvati, Randra, Dharma, Karma, Labha, and Vyaya are in order the names of houses. Now, if you don't speak Sanskrit, that probably just sounds like a beautiful list of words. But believe it or not, each word is actually a master key unlocking that specific house's core function.
Let's translate the first half of those verses into simple English. The first house is Thanu, meaning the self or physical body. Moving to the second, Dane means wealth. The third, Sahaja, translates to siblings or valor. Fourth is Bandhu, representing relatives and the mother. The fifth is Putra, meaning progeny or sons. And the sixth is Ari, which translates to enemies. It's crazy because just by knowing these ancient names, you immediately have a macro-level map of the first half of life.
Moving on to grouping the astrological houses and the architectural brilliance of the chart.
You know, these 12 houses aren't just some random list numbered 1 to 12. The ancient text actually organized them into specific functional groups, creating this massive interconnected architectural system. The absolute most important grouping is the Kendra, or the angles. This includes the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th houses. Think of the Kendras as the 4 core structural pillars of a person's life. If planets are placed here, their effects are super prominent. They're literally holding up the structure of your destiny.
And it definitely doesn't stop there. Beyond the Kendra pillars, we've got the Konas, or trines, the 5th and 9th houses, which are highly auspicious houses of blessings. Then you hit the Trika, the evil houses. That's the 6th, 8th, and 12th, representing obstacles, endings, and loss. We also have the Chaturastras, the 4th and 8th. And finally, the Upanishads, houses 3, 6, 10, and 11, which are houses of growth and improvement over time. It's just a brilliantly layered system.
Next up, houses of self and family. Phase 1, covering houses 1 to 4.
Let's zoom in on the micro-level indications. We can divide the 12 houses into 3 distinct phases. Phase 1 is houses 1 through 4, governing the self and your immediate early environment. According to chapter 11 of the text, the first house dictates your physique, appearance, and intellect, who you are when you enter the world. The second house moves outward to your immediate resources, wealth, grains, and family. The third house represents your siblings, your valor, and short journeys. Finally, the fourth house is your foundational security, your mother, lands, and what the text calls conveyances, which for us today basically means your cars.
Now for intellect, obstacles, and partnerships. Phase 2, covering houses 5 to 8.
So if those first 4 houses are your roots, these middle houses are all about how you step out and interact with the wider world. And yeah, this is where things get a bit complicated. The 5th house is creative output and intelligence, learning, sacred spells, and having sons. But then, boom, you hit the 6th house, one of those trika or evil houses we talked about. This brings enemies, ulcers, and maternal uncles.
The 7th house is your primary partnership house, wife, trade, and travel. And then we arrive at the super mysterious 8th house, dealing with battle, the wealth of the dead, and longevity.
Which brings us to something really fascinating, the 8th house paradox. The texts explicitly state the 8th house indicates a person's longevity, right? But it is simultaneously the house of death and battles. It's the ultimate house of transformation. It literally forces the astrologer to weigh the strength of life against the inevitability of its end, all contained within the exact same segment of the chart. How wild is that?
Moving to fortune, honor, and endings. Phase 3, houses 9 to 12.
This phase brings us to the culmination of life, higher pursuits, ultimate legacy, and eventually, release. The 9th house is incredibly auspicious. It's fortunes, religion, and visits to shrines. Then the 10th house is the absolute peak of the chart, authority, profession, honor, and it also signifies the father. The 11th house is all about income and prosperity, and the text even specifically mentions quadrupeds, animals. Finally, the 12th house finishes the cycle. It represents expenses, the history of enemies, and one's own death. Finally, let's look at some advanced chart reading rules, specifically the derivative concept. Now that we've mapped out the whole journey, there's this truly advanced rule from the Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra that adds a totally multi-dimensional layer to reading these houses. It's called the derivative concept. Normally, if you want to know about a person's father, you'd look at the 9th and 10th houses counted from the ascendant, right? Well, sage Parashara states you must also assess the father by finding where the sun is in the chart and then counting 9 and 10 houses away from the sun. It's like the sun acts as a secondary ascendant specifically for that topic. Let's see how this builds for other areas, like the mother. Step 1, we already know the 4th house represents the mother. Step 2, check the 4th house counted from the ascendant, but step 3 is where the magic happens. You find the moon in the chart and check the 4th house counted from the moon. You blend both of those perspectives to get the true picture. It's the same for everything. You check the 3rd from Mars for siblings, the 6th from Mercury for enemies, the 7th from Venus for marriage. It's incredible.
To really cement this, listen to this direct quote from the English translation notes of the scripture. From this it will be seen that each of the 12 houses is related to some specific planet apart from the ascendant. These rules are very highly suggestive. What this means is the chart isn't static at all. It's this dynamic, overlapping web where the planets themselves generate their own gravitational fields of meaning.
We have covered a massive amount of ancient ground today, from translating the 12 bhavas to understanding the structural pillars of the kendras and learning the multidimensional derivative rules of the sages. The Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra provides an incredibly structured, logical map of human destiny. But remember, a map is just a piece of paper until you locate yourself on it. So I'll leave you with this. If these 12 houses are the definitive map of a human life, which planets are currently occupying yours? Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer. Keep exploring.